First off, welcome. Welcome to Kilby Elementary School, home of the Tigers. A brand new school that we just opened last year at a price tag of about $32 million.
Ridiculous.
And we more than doubled the student population here with this new building. And we are full already. And as many of you know, as residents of Woodbridge, we are growing. We are growing very fast. And we have to manage that growth. For those that I've not met, my name is Frank Principi. I am your Woodbridge representative on the Prince William Board of County Supervisors. I appreciate your vote of confidence, your votes. I am now serving in my third term. And I moved to Woodbridge in 1989, so just short of 30 years. And I had three objectives in mind, probably objectives that you all shared when you moved here. One was to start a family. Another was to buy a home on the water. And the third was to start my own business. And I've been fortunate enough to do all three of those. And I now am in a position to be able to serve you, the community. And I want to say thank you for your confidence in doing that. And before I was elected in 2007, I stepped forward, like a lot of you perhaps have done, and served in a volunteer capacity as an appointee or a volunteer on one of the 92 boards, commissions, and committees that are active in Prince William County. And so if you are interested in perhaps getting more involved, becoming more aware of what's going on, having a say, more of a say in what's going on, I would encourage you to contact me in my office to talk to you a little bit about what those opportunities might look like. Now, all of you should have received an agenda on that back table. I like to ensure everybody knows where we are, where we're going, and over what period of time. You see the agenda is very simple tonight. I'll have some opening remarks. I'll introduce my 4 or 5 panelists. If the fifth one comes, I'll introduce him as well. I've asked each of the panelists to come prepared with 5 minutes, and we're going to be timing them. 5 minutes of opening remarks, answering the question. They've done this before a few times in different communities. Effectively answering the question, what have you done for me lately? And they each have a different perspective. Police, fire, etc. So after they're done, after I'm done with my opening remarks, they're done with their 5 minutes each. The remainder of the time is going to be spent on your questions and concerns. And if we don't get to all the questions or concerns, or you want to talk privately about something or somebody, several of us will be here afterwards. I know we have a strict time limit. We have to be supposed to be out of here by 9, but is it 9:15 now? A little bit of flexibility, so 9:15. And of course, you can always contact me and my staff directly in my office tomorrow. So those that I've met probably have heard me talk about the vision of a new Woodbridge. How many in the room here, just by show of hands, have heard something about this new Woodbridge thing or the vision? Get them up higher so I can see. I got to strengthen my glasses. Just about everything. For those that are not familiar with the vision, I'd just like to talk about it a little bit. It's really my North Star. When I went and knocked on 10,000 doors in 2007, there's 22,000 households in Woodbridge. I knocked on just under half of them. Didn't knock as many the second and the third election, but I tried to get out there. I had a very clear set of goals, priorities from all of you, right? So I made this vision of a new Woodbridge my North Star, my reference point. And so everything I do as your representative on the Prince William Board is done through the perspective of whether or not it's going to accomplish one of 3 goals, or what we call one of 3 pillars of the vision. The first one is all about stronger neighborhoods, right? And that takes a life of its own, from making sure we've got adequate police and fire that can respond in a timely fashion, into the neighborhoods. It's also about schools and libraries and other services available. It's about making sure we've got enough inspection services for overcrowded houses and tall grass and graffiti on garage doors, right? So it's really about stronger neighborhoods. And when I came into office, you all know what was going on in 2007, 2008, a national home foreclosure market, where we had whole streets, whole cul-de-sacs in Woodbridge, empty. The homes were empty. They had moved out for a lot of reasons, but the home foreclosure market was one. The second pillar of the vision of a new Woodbridge is about transportation and about the traffic mess that we sit in 7 days a week. I sit in just like you do, and the Transportation Institute of the United States has said not only are we the worst congested corridor, Woodbridge to DC in the country, we're worse than LA, okay? And I grew up in LA before moving out here. Not only do we have the worst, but we also have the most reliably unreliable transportation system, right? Because you think about it, you could be on Sunday after church, and it could be bumper to bumper on that one, right? So it's really unreliable, and we need to fix that. So the second pillar about the vision about New Woodbridge is making sure that we have more transportation options. And many of you see that manifested in that construction mess going on Route 1. A $500 million project, but we're not stopping there. There's many other projects going on. In fact, one of our boards tonight, this one over here, I think has a list of 14 or 15 ongoing transportation projects, not in the county, but in Woodbridge. So I wanted to bring that and show you on the map where those things are happening. The third pillar, the third leg of the stool, is about how we plan our communities. And you know, when I moved here, when you moved here, you know, you close your eyes and you think about the Route 1 corridor anywhere on the Eastern Seaboard. Anywhere, not just Woodbridge, not just Prince William. And what do you see? You're sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic, you're looking at half-empty strip malls and fast food drive-ins, and those utility poles with the line sagging between them, and sometimes another pole holding it up, and some poles have two poles holding up the initial pole. And so we wanted to make sure that we were doing a better job of planning our community and leveraging what we call smart growth principles. These are national principles. It's not unique to Woodbridge or Prince William or Virginia, but it's really about making sure that every residential and commercial application that comes before the Board of Supervisors has a set of criteria in which we measure by. And if they don't meet those measurements and they're unwilling to negotiate to address those elements, it's simple for me. I just say no. And quite frankly, I'll let you in on a little secret. You know, I'm getting a reputation in the commercial and the business world, but I've said no more often than yes. So I'd be interested in your feedback, again, about another Kentucky Fried Chicken drive-in, another McDonald's drive-in, another used car dealership, another strip mall coming in at Potomac, Port Potomac. So I feel like I've gotten enough feedback from all of you to be your representative in those negotiations. It's not a fun thing to do, but sometimes you have to say no to get to yes. And so that's what the vision is all about. But quite frankly, the vision of a new Woodbridge is built on the vision of old Woodbridge, or Woodbridge. And I don't know how many of you know the history of this area. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And as your public servant, I love to talk about the history of Woodbridge. You know, realize Woodbridge, hundreds of years ago, was a very significant center of commerce. A lot of business here, right? There were the ironworks, there was grist mills, granaries, there were plantations. George Mason's family had a plantation here for 100 years up at Belmont Bay. But we were also a center of commerce at a transportation crossroads. And you think about it today, we got Interstate 95, we got Route 1, we got 123, we got Potomac River, we got the Occoquan River, we got CSX train tracks, and now VRE service on those train tracks. go back 100 or 200 years, we had much of the same. We were really the center of this area. And the road network here in Woodbridge, you know, it wasn't always called Jefferson Davis Highway or Route 1. Before it was called Kings Highway. And before that, Potomac Path. And Potomac Path and Kings Highway was the road that connected the 13 colonies. So Woodbridge was right in the center of it. So I like to think of where we're going is where we've been, right? And to be able to bring back that luster, that commerce, center of commerce, that transportation crossroads for the folks who live here today. And in Woodbridge, we have about 66,000 people, and it's growing by 3 to 4% a year. That's pretty similar around the county, not just Woodbridge. So we are very much involved in rebuilding Woodbridge and investing in infrastructure. I like to say that, and we're tracking this closely, we've got $1.6 billion with a B dollars coming out of the ground in Woodbridge. Not Prince William County. This is in public and private sector investment. And $500 million of that 1.6 is just Route 1. And other boards, I don't see them here tonight, we just announced last week that we received another $33.5 million to widen Neabsco Mills Road. Now, if any of you get off of 95 and come off of Dale Boulevard and then swing around by Freedom High School and the community college, and you sort of snake your way down to Route 1, it's got to be the worst congested place in all of Woodbridge. And I've been fighting for a couple of years to get this kind of funding. And we announced last week that we received the funding. It's federal money administered by the state. We expect to be able to break ground in 2020 and have it done in 2022. Again, part of the infrastructure that we need for a growing population. Now, probably the million-dollar question that is on your minds tonight, I would think, is, so great, Frank, we got all this investment going, this infrastructure, and we're trying to go back to where we were. What are you doing in the Marumsco communities? And my staff put together such an impressive list that I just wanted to take a few minutes and share some of these with you. And you will relate to this because I'm going to draw it down right to the very street and community. So what's going on in Marumsco communities? Significant investments are being made in Marumsco Hills, received repaving of several streets by Washington Gas last year. Any of you see a repaved street we did? Okay. That's one. We're going to have to work on getting the rest here. Marumsco Acres and Marumsco Woods and the village will have 24 miles of neighborhoods repaved, 24 miles in the three communities repaved this year by the state, by VDOT, Virginia Department of Transportation. VDOT will also put asphalt paving down for 9 miles on the north and south side of Hilton Avenue. And Marumsco Acres will get an additional 12 miles of new asphalt in streets around East Longview. In Marumsco Village, VDOT's laying down a latex seal. So when we can't afford a new road, a new top to the road, we seal the existing top to extend the life of the road. And the streets in my neighborhood has a similar sealing. And that'll be done on Blackburn Road between Route 1 and Ripon Boulevard. The Service Authority, our water provider that you all pay for through separate bills every month, Prince William Service Authority, has replaced drinking water pipes coming in and out of Woodbridge from the Fairfax treatment facility that we get our drinking water supply from. And we've also replaced almost 8,000 feet of sewer system along Featherstone Road. And are constructing a new lift station at Marumsco Acres Lake Park. I had the opportunity to go out to Marumsco Lake Park last week and saw a significant amount of work going on there with the new lift station. $70 million has been spent, so already spent, in building 20 miles of new sidewalks and trails. That's all in Woodbridge. Much of that investment has been in the older communities of Woodbridge, who have what I call sidewalks to nowhere, right? Where the sidewalk, the developer may have built it to the end of the street, but didn't connect it on either side anywhere else. And so we get that, and we're dealing with it. Current sidewalk projects in the community include Horner Road, from Forest Glen to Kilby, right here. Southampton Street, just near the other fire station. Southampton Street from Montgomery Avenue to Pine Lane, new sidewalk, and two streetlights. Opitz Boulevard from Potomac Library. Remember, the big deal was getting it from Wawa up to Potomac Library. That's done. Now we're going from Potomac Library all the way up to Potomac Center Boulevard as well. So those are planned, funded, designed, engineered, and under development. We do speed studies. When you call and say, hey, we got some jerks speeding up and down our street, we do speed studies. Mr. Wyman's going to talk about those. Of all the speed studies that are done in Prince William County, 20% of them are done in the Marumsco communities. So you're getting your lion's share of the resources of the county to track speeds. You know, these speed studies will lead to increased police enforcement by Captain Feather, signage, speed bumps, raised crosswalks, new lighting, new signage, and my favorite, what I have in mind on my street, is what we call an enhanced fine, an additional $200 on top of whatever the normal fine is for speeding. And how do we get that done? It's really by community support. We circulate a petition, and if there's enough people to support it, then we can put that in place. We have a very small budget in the county for each district for streetlights, and 5 out of the 6 streetlights going in this year are in Marumsco Hills Village and Acres. And I'm sure, as the police captain will attest a little bit later, the Marumsco communities are also a very high priority for him and his officers. 2 of the most common concerns we get in my office is speeding, as I mentioned, and illegal parking. You know, folks parked on the grass. And so we work very closely with Captain Feather and his crew to increase police presence and ensure that we've got, you know, police devices are out there. Last year, Featherstone Road received the prize. Featherstone Road going in and out of Veterans Park, it got the prize for the most speeding complaints in Woodbridge. I'm not sure about the county. And we ended up with 200 police stops on that one road. And if I'm not mistaken, Captain Feather, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the 200 stops is equivalent to 200 tickets. And we still have a speeding problem. So even increased police enforcement is not going to solve what some would see as simple common sense and courtesy. We're also investing in education in our schools. The county, your tax dollars, we increased the investment in schools starting July 1 by almost 4%. And if you think about it, just the capital cost for the schools, the transfer of funds, is over $1 billion, $1.2 billion starting July 1, $1.2 billion, just the capital, not operating costs. Teacher salaries and everything else, that's separate. But $1.2 billion in new capital investment, including, pat yourself on the back, a brand new Woodbridge Elementary School. And I'm thinking that we will have a site by the end of this month, because I know the board's going into full session to discuss the price tag of a couple of sites. And my guess is this summer we'll be able to announce where that new elementary school is going. That's at a price tag of $39 million. We've also been successful in securing an additional $33 million over 5 years to reduce classroom sizes. If your kids, your grandkids are sitting in overcrowded classrooms, I think that's probably the #1 priority today, over and above traffic, is our kids, our elementary kids in particular in Woodbridge, our high school kids out in the west in Gainesville, in that area, are sitting in overcrowded classrooms and or school trailers. And if I'm correct, Kilby has no school trailers. Yeah. But as I mentioned to you, we're already at or above capacity. And I want to talk to you about that too before I step aside. The price tag associated with eliminating the 200 school trailers in Prince William, not just Woodbridge, is in the order of $170 million. And that's what my next priority is, to get rid of those school trailers so all of our kids can be taught in a classroom, in the building, in the school building, and not in a trailer. The whole issue of the school security also comes in because the trailers are not as protected as the school building. Right? A lot of times we don't have perimeter fencing around the trailer, and it's a simple locked door that has to be gone through to create a threat. I could go on and on. Overcrowding is a growing problem here in Woodbridge and these communities and your communities. And I know one of our panelists will be speaking to that tonight. The last thing I want to mention to you is, it's part of that vision of a new Woodbridge and making the right choices when we go to planning our community. As some of you may be aware, because I've done a couple of other town halls over the last year or two, the county is now looking at a application to build 325 apartments and townhouses just above Kilby School, where the old landfill used to be up the top of the hill here. 325, it's about 40 to 50 acres up there. More than half are apartments. I'm not a big friend of apartments. I think we have enough on the Route 1 corridor. That application, there's a legal right to the property owner to move through a process within the state of Virginia to ask and answer the question, will you approve my development? So that, there's nothing we can do to stop that. The school board has now voted against this application. The planning commission has voted in favor of it. And Prince William County staff is recommending approval. So it really is up to the Prince William Board of Supervisors to make the final decision. And guess what? After a couple of years of planning and this coming through the system, it's going to be hitting the Board of Supervisors' agenda later this month. The last Tuesday of the month, June 26th at 7:30 p.m. The name of the application is Raise Regard. Regard with an E at the end. It is an application that is being put forward by, I think, one of the more reputable developers in Northern Virginia. But I have told him very clearly that I don't think this is the right location for his product. Not only does it make this school over capacity on day one, but also there are significant chaos problems out here in front of the school at drop-off and pick-up. They are proposing some ways to alleviate that. But in the end, this application needs 5 votes out of an 8-member board of supervisors. Right? So 4-4 is a tie, and the application dies. But if they were able to get 5 votes, the application would be approved and they would be able to go forward and build. I have not voted for a single, with one exception, a single residential application before the Board of County Supervisors in the 11 years I've been on the board. Because I've heard very clearly from you, we need to get our infrastructure in place, we need to take care of our own before we just go grow willy-nilly. And I am intending to vote against this application as well. But I'm 1 vote out of 8. And what will convince, if you're of the same mind, or even a different mind, I would strongly encourage you all to consider coming out to the meeting. It's in the evening, again, Tuesday, June 26th. Coming out and taking 2 or 3 minutes, going up to the microphone and letting us know what you think. That will influence some votes. And I don't know if it'll influence the outcome, but there may be supervisors who, I know I do, appreciate listening to the people who voted them into office. And so, raise regard, June 26th, and follow up to this meeting. If you signed in, it's on the sign-in sheet, and we can read your email address. we'll be more than happy to send you a 1 or 2 page fact sheet so that you all get grounded in the details, and then, you know, what the protocol is when you arrive and all that good stuff. But my guess is you could probably be out, in and out in an hour, hour and a half, assuming it's the first thing on the agenda. Otherwise, you may be there as long as I am. That's okay, right? With that, what I'd like to do is move on to our panelists, and Seth has arrived. All right, so we're at full strength. Again, I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to ask each one in turn, starting with Captain Feather, starting in turn. Each one provide us with a 5-minute overview of their department's perspective with regard to Marumsco Communities. We're going to go through each one of them. Then we're going to open, for questions and answers through 9 o'clock. So we should get at least an hour of Q&A. Again, if you're not comfortable asking, or it's a little bit more personal, hang on to the question until 9 o'clock and make a beeline for one of our panelists, or simply give me a call tomorrow and we'll get your question asked and answered. My staff, raise your hand back in the back. Megan Landis, I have to give her a complete credit for organizing this and preparing my talking points. She's fantastic. If you have a compliment or a complaint about what's going on in Woodbridge, you are more than likely going to be talking to her when you call the office or send an email. She is our constituent service manager. And so you might want to shake hands and put a face with a name tonight. Megan is, 6 months now? Yeah, about 6 months. So she's new, but we're getting stuff done. And we need your help to do that. What I'll say in closing is something I learned the hard way, being a resident of Woodbridge myself. We do not have a tax policy. We do not generate enough tax revenue, unfortunately, to be proactive all the time when it comes to your concerns and complaints with the neighborhood. We are effectively reactionary, right? We hear from you. You are our eyes and ears in the community. When you email, call, or see me at Wegmans, then we get it into the system and we deal with it. So sometimes some of you may ask, well, gee, why haven't they dealt with that property? Or why haven't they dealt with that street or sidewalk? It might be because we've not driven by lately and seen just how bad it is. So we need you to be our eyes and ears and call us, email us, and let us know what's going on in your community. Okay. So with that, let me tonight, a longtime member of the Prince William County Police Department, Captain Chris Feather, is the commander of the Eastern District Police Station, right there in front of Ferlaza, there on Route 1. In his role as the commander, he oversees just over 100 sworn officers and about 10 civilian staff. And he's responsible for covering about a 100-mile area that includes Woodbridge, Dumfries, Quantico, and Montclair. And so he's got a big check. Now, with the opening of the Central Police Station, will it still be 100? It'll still be 100. We're just about to open our 3rd police station in the county this month in Mid-County. But I guess we've already divided it up, and 100 miles is your take. Sitting next to him is Chief Matt Smolsky. Chief Smolsky is the Assistant Chief of the Community Safety Department or Division of the Fire and Rescue Department. And his responsibilities includes the management of the Fire Marshal's Office, public safety, public education, public information, and the Office of Emergency Management. So if any of you are on the email list that got a lot of his emails about flooding, it was coming out of his office, his team. And we've had a lot of flooding recently. He's the guy managing those emergencies for us. Sitting next to Chief is Mr. Richard Weinman. And I'll tell you in advance, he has a funny accent.
A true Woodbridge accent.
Well, I'm not sure I've heard it before in Woodbridge, but I love it. Richard is an engineer with the Prince William Department of Transportation and responsible for write this one down, traffic calming, right? Road building, sidewalk projects across the entire county. Seth Handler-Voss, also new to the county, a year?
Yes, sir.
Good year
Yes, sir.
already?
Almost to
Seth?
the week, yeah.
The week. Seth is the new director of our Parks and Recreation Department. So if some of you live near Marumsco Acres Lake Park, make sure you ask him, what are we doing to clean that mess up? Okay, that's him. We actually took a little field trip out there last week. Seth is responsible for 4,000 acres of county parkland, 4,000 acres, and 100 miles of trails, blueways, trails along the water, and lakes. Do we have lakes in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, in Vets Park, we have.
Well, yeah. I'm not talking stormwater management, right? Lakes, real lakes.
We have other lakes, yes.
Good.
Lake Ridge.
Oh, okay. And then finally with us, last but not least, is Kathleen Holtzlander. Kathleen is our neighborhood coordinator in the Public Works Department, but more importantly with neighborhood services, right? So if you have a complaint, an issue, a concern about something in your neighborhood, you might call Megan first, or you might go online and file it on the county portal, the internet portal, or you might call Kathleen directly. Kathleen's responsible for property code enforcement, building maintenance, and my favorite, community cleanups. I hope you've seen us out there with the orange vests on Route 1 and in the Marumsco Creek, literally in the creek, cleaning up. We do probably a dozen in eastern Prince William every year. So if you all are looking to volunteer for a project, we could use you helping us picking up litter out on the side of the road. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Feather, or Captain Feather, I don't want to promote him, for 5 minutes. All right?
All right, good evening. Mr. Principi said, my name is Captain Chris Feather. I'm your Eastern District Commander for the police department here. Been signed down here since January. I'm in my 25th year, so I've been around the county for a few years. Started east, worked my way west, special ops, a couple other assignments in the department. I do work very closely with Megan and the other members of the panel, their staffs, to make sure we are here and available to address your concerns. As Mr. Principi alluded to, we are very reactive. I've got a lot of territory to cover with limited resources, as we all do, but we try to react to your concerns and your complaints, and I would encourage you to reach out to me directly or continue going through Megan. I think we talk or email 4 or 5 times a week, if not daily, sometimes two times a day, to address your concerns. And that's what I get paid to do, and that's what I enjoy doing. But as Mr. Principi said, we can only react to your calls. We can't be in every community, every day, every minute of the day. As much as I would wish we could, we just can't. We just don't have the resources to do that. But I'm very concerned, and I want to hear from you what concerns you have, so that we can address them. We have been very successful up in the Belmont Bay community addressing some specific concerns they had and directing resources up there. Just this past weekend, we were up in Mary Street, up in, I'm not going to attempt to guess which Marumsco that is, to address some community abandoned cars without proper licensing, and stuff like that. But that's based on a complaint that someone in the neighborhood made to us. My officers, they drive up and down the streets, they address them, but we need to hear from you. And I would encourage you that if you see a crime in progress, or what you believe to be a crime in progress, that you contact our non-emergency number. If you don't know, it's 792-6500. It serves a couple positive things. Number one, it gets an on-duty resource out to you immediately. It doesn't wait for you to send an email or call the supervisor's office for me to go out and send my people out Monday morning. It gets an officer out that is working, can get out and address the problem as it's occurring. It also serves as a record. So when we go back to look at, when you ask for a street light in your neighborhood, one of the first things that we do, we provide Mr. Principi's office with a call for service record. Well, if we've only been out there 10 times, then it doesn't reflect the need for a traffic light. Because every time a citizen calls into communication and call for service is entered, it creates a record. And that's what we go back and we rely on. So number one, we can assign resources, assign officers to go to problem areas. It also serves as a permanent record, so when we go back and research issues, to help solve the community concerns. So I ask you again, if you see a crime, if it's a parking violation, call in. We'll send an on-duty resource. A suspicious person, people loitering, you name it. You know the quality of life violations. Don't think you're bothering us. That's what we get paid to do. We get paid to respond to your calls, your concerns, because what you perceive as a major incident may be minor to us. The bottom line is we get paid to serve you. And we want to answer your calls, your complaints, and address your concerns at the time they happen. So that would be my big initial remarks, and we'll get into specific questions later on, is please call us, call the non-emergency number, get the on-duty resources out. If it's a minor, very minor, not in progress call, then by all means reach out to me directly or contact Supervisor Principi's office, and we'll work together to figure out how we can best address that. So there we go.
5 minutes.
Timed that perfectly. Good evening, I'm Matt Sikorsky. As Mr. Principi stated, I'm with the Department of Fire and Rescue. I'm one of the assistant chiefs working in emergency management at the fire marshal's office, and also hazardous materials all fall under my responsibility. I heard Chris say, I thought you'd been here longer than 25 years. I've been here, I'm in my 41st year. I know I started in the middle school program. I look so young as I do, but it's been a great ride here in the county. It's a great place to work. All of y'all made it possible, and we've tried to assist you in any way we can. One thing that I would like to mention tonight, and I can't wait for your questions. I love the question and answer session. I love the back and forth. But so I'd like to take this opportunity just to pass on a few safety tips and ask for your assistance going forward. My duties as the Chief Fire Marshal, I see all the reports on all the fires in the county. If staff goes out to investigate a fire, I'm also the county fire department's public information officer, so I get phone calls all hours of the night, and I'm pretty up with what's happening. But I do get reports on all the fires that occur in the county, and just a couple of trends I'd like to share with you that we've seen recently, rather significant fires that we've had throughout the county. Are there any smokers here? Great. Because if you do know a smoker, or you just don't want to raise your hand, that's all right. I'm not going to chastise you about your habits. I just ask to pass on, and if you do smoke, please make sure you properly discard your smoking materials when you're finished, either in a container of water or a container of sand or something like that, because we've had tremendous fire losses in the last 3 months. Houses burning totally down just from a simple cigarette butt that they thought they were out, and it doesn't take long at all for a cigarette butt thrown in a fire pot on the deck of a house to totally destroy a home. So again, it's crucial that you take the proper precautions. Now let's say that you do have a fire for whatever reason, and we're also seeing a recent trend of non-working smoke detectors in homes. Okay? There is no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. In my years of experience, that is the most simplest device that can save a life that's out there. For $15, $20 smoke detector with a $2 battery in it, it saves lives. And we've seen so many of those recently disconnected, where the battery's taken out, they need the batteries for their Game Boy, or they went off when they're cooking. If smoke detectors go off because you're cooking, maybe you need to move the smoke detector a few more feet away from your stove, or something like that. But we've had several close calls where the people, we came very close to horrific incidents, and I mean loss of life, because the smoke detector was installed properly. So I cannot emphasize it. It's probably the number one thing that frustrates me when I'm not there. I see these type of things. the potential for loss from a simple device. So please, I would encourage everybody to go home tonight, check your smoke detector, make sure it's working. Also, if you want any additional information, go to our website, county website, fire and rescue, emergency management. Had a lot of storms lately, a lot of heavy rain in this area throughout the region, not just here in Prince William. Very important to stay tuned to what's happening in the weather and listen to what the weather people are saying. Listen to what the warnings are saying. Don't drive into standing water. We like to say, turn around, don't drown. People don't understand the power of water. Okay. We had a rescue, I believe it was Friday night. I was out of town, but Friday night, had a rescue right down Route 1 in Easy Street. We had to pull a gentleman off the roof of his car. I'm not sure the circumstances, how he ended up where he did. But again, we see throughout the region, throughout the country, people drive in the water. Oh, I can make it. I can make it. It only takes 6 to 10 inches of moving water to uplift the car and start moving it downstream. And I cannot imagine what that feels like if that happens to you. You have no control of your vehicle, you're floating. Very dangerous. Adhere to warnings. We've seen more tornado warnings in this area recently in the last few years. Take shelter. Listen to what's being said by the authorities, by the experts. And also you can sign up for the weather alerts through the county, also at our county website, so I encourage everybody to do that. So with that, I'll move on to the next speaker, and look forward to your questions with us. Thank you.
Richard Wyman, Prince William County Department of Transportation, and yes, your speaker. I'm originally from South Africa. I lived here in the US for about 10 years, as well as Australia for a few years. So I've been in Prince William County for 2.5, almost 3 years now. And I work for Prince William County Department of Transportation. What our primary function is to improve transportation in the county, whether it's buses, trains, multimodal, pedestrians, and make it safer and better for all of you. We work with VDOT, who are the state agency who are responsible for the maintenance of the roads. And what we do is we do all those other projects, like Supervisor Principi has already alluded to. We try drive those improvements, the Route 1 improvements, the Southampton sidewalks, small pedestrian improvements, and all those kind of things, as well as the street lighting projects. They all fall under us. My primary area of focus is traffic safety and traffic calming, so speeding issues, line of sight, parking issues, all those kind of things come through our office. The key thing to realize is we have limited jurisdiction in this, and we work and partner with VDOT on this, and one of the key things that we need in order to move any project forward is community support. So typically we're looking for petitions, people coming out to board meetings, to public hearings. Without those elements, basically, we go to VDOT and they go, well, there's no community support, that's it, and projects can't tend to die. With that being said, because we're working with community and bureaucracy, unfortunately these things do take a while to implement. We're kind of playing a long game with traffic safety and those kind of things. So again, if you have a speeding issue where you think maybe traffic calming, such as a speed table, a roundabout, a chicane, or choker, something like that is needed, or if you want a pedestrian facility improved, there's 100 feet of sidewalk missing, you need an ADA ramp, you need a street light, there's too many accidents at this intersection, the traffic timing on this is wrong. The people you need to come to are, you can come either through us or through Supervisor Principi's office, and we will represent you to VDOT to try to get that fixed as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So our primary function is to make you not only be safer and happier on the roads, but also to feel safer in your neighborhoods, in those roads and whatnot. Megan has a bunch of my business cards, so if you have any questions, which I'm sure we never have questions about transportation at these meetings, she has them. I've also bought a couple of copies of our residential traffic calming manual, so if you have specific concerns, please, if you don't get a chance to ask me during the Q&A session, feel free to contact us and we'll come back to you as soon as possible with possible solutions. And often it's a community that comes up with best solutions. We go out, we're very familiar with the road. I work a lot with my colleagues here to try address these issues, but you live on the road, so you see what it's like at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm not there. So please feel free to grab a card and contact us if you don't have a chance to ask during the Q&A. And I'll pass on to Seth.
Good evening, everybody. Hello. My name is Seth Hendler-Voss. I'm the Hendler, my wife is the Voss, and we got married about 14 years ago and just merged together, created our own family tree. We moved here a year ago from Asheville, North Carolina, over on the western part of the state. I'm blessed to be here, honored to serve the supervisor and the board of supervisors. This is a wonderful community. I'm still getting to know it, so I don't know every nook and cranny of Woodbridge, but I'm learning quickly, and I like what I see. My background is in park design, and then I went into city management for a little while, and now I'm back in the park around managing a department of what is today about 1,500 employees, most of which are seasonals. We hire hundreds of lifeguards and camp counselors to manage our pools and our summer camps, as well as about 4,000 acres of park property that I'm steward to, and hundreds of programs. We have about 300 day camp options alone. We're a huge department with services that range from the very small to those who are retired. So we have preschool programs and we have exercise classes for senior citizens and every conceivable program in between. Woodbridge in specific, we have a lot of really dynamic facilities. We have a wonderful pool over at Betts Park. We have the only skate park in Prince William County located at Veterans Park. We have beautiful waterways and beautiful natural areas that other districts don't enjoy. So you're very lucky to live in this district. And my goal is to work with the supervisor to help him fulfill that one pillar of his new Woodbridge plan, which is to ensure that we have stronger neighborhoods. And one of the central ingredients to a stronger neighborhood is a collection of strong parks that are clean, that are safe, and that meet the needs of the citizens. The glass is half full when it comes to parks and recreation in Prince William County. We've gone for a long time without adequate funding, and I'm not going to stand here before you today and say that the funding is now adequate. But I will say, thanks to the supervisor, the chairman, and the other board members, we have more resources than ever before in recent memory to use towards shoring up and improving the existing park inventory that we have, while also planning for the future. So we're balancing new park development while also trying to take care of the beautiful parks that many of you probably were behind putting into the ground. It's very easy to forget about those parks that were really popular and exciting 20 years ago and focus on the new thing, but you have to do both. And this current fiscal year 18, we were the recipients of about $4 to $5 million worth of capital maintenance monies that we were able to use throughout Prince William County, including in the Woodbridge District, as well as some CIP money, which a majority of which went towards the Absco Boardwalk project that connects Ripon Landing Park to the Metz wetland. It's one of the finest outdoor trail projects I've ever had the pleasure of working on. I hope you all have had a chance to see it on the supervisor's website or on the county website. It's a beautiful signature, sort of hallmark project that is really going to, I think, define new Woodbridge. And in fiscal year 19, we are looking at using additional capital maintenance monies and capital improvement monies to put back into the system. We're going to be doing some projects here in the Marumsco Hills area. We're going to be doing some accessibility and paving work at Veterans Park, as well as Hamel Mill Park. And we're also going to be replacing the half-pipe skate ramp over at Veterans Park. So a lot of really exciting projects ongoing. Of course, we're pushing our trail projects. We're going gangbusters to get the Woodbridge Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail segments up and running by the end of this calendar year. We're going to be having a ribbon cutting in the spring, and we're going to have a multitude of trails to enjoy. One last thing, when you think of Parks and Recreation, it's easy to think about playgrounds and park benches. But here in Prince William County, under the leadership of Supervisor Principi and the Board of Supervisors, we look at the Parks and Recreation department as providing so much more. We're in the business of community transformation, so we're not only tackling the traditional health needs of the community through offering recreation programs and play opportunities, but we're tackling social issues as well. When you think about it, parks are a neutral ground where people from all backgrounds can get together and share common experiences. We're dealing with the economy. The Office of Tourism now falls under the Department of Parks and Recreation, so we're working to try to bring more sports tourism to Prince William County, more folks coming in to spend money in the restaurants and in the hotels and to buy gas. We're in the business of employing youth. We're the largest employer of youth in Prince William County, so we're teaching hard employment skills to the future workforce. With mobility, we're the stewards of about 50 miles worth of trail that provide alternative transportation solutions. So we look at ourselves as a new kind of Parks and Recreation department, and I'm really looking forward to putting our values and our creativity to use for you in Woodbridge. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kathy Holtzlander. I'm your neighborhood coordinator. I've been with the county for 6 years now. I work for Neighborhood Services Division. We're one of 8 divisions of the Department of Public Works. Our main goal in neighborhood services is to help you maintain the health, welfare, and safety of your communities. We can't do that without you. So as Supervisor Principi mentioned earlier, you are our eyes and ears. The county is 348 square miles. We have 16 inspectors. 5 inspectors are assigned to the Woodbridge district alone. The case information we receive we're complaint-based, so we try to be proactive when our inspectors are in the field. If they're responding to a complaint on my property and they see my neighbor has a similar issue, they're going to write that one down too, so it'll be like an inspector-initiated type of case. We cover property code violations, which includes building maintenance issues, gutters falling down, holes in roofs, as well as zoning ordinances, tall grass, operating a business out of somebody's home without a license, that kind of thing that isn't approved through our zoning department, and they don't have a permit. So we rely on you to report that information to us. As your neighborhood coordinator, I'm responsible for the educational outreach component, almost the happier side of property code. People rather talk to me and walk them through the process than to have the inspector knocking on their door. Our first goal is educational outreach, even with our inspector's side, because some people may not know about a zoning ordinance. Some people may not know they can't leave that kind of excess storage out in front of their yard. Maybe they have a different culture. Our first goal is to educate the residents, to let them know. We do that by knocking on the door. Maybe they're home, maybe they're not. So sometimes a case, you may call and report a concern to us, and you may feel like it's not being addressed quick enough, but everybody's entitled to the right of due diligence. So again, the educational outreach component first. Hey, did you know this isn't allowed? And then we work with those people to try to get those things abated. Some cases take longer than others. Now is the time for tall grass. The county ordinance, it's 12 inches, which is pretty tall. But most grass is growing like leaps and bounds with all this wet weather we've had. So a property owner has 2 weeks. A local business only has 7 days to get that abated. So our inspectors are working around the clock to get out there and get responses. So we ask that you let us know what you see. You have several ways to do that. You can call it in. If you're internet savvy, we have a really simple online form. You just fill it in, but you have to provide your name, your address, your contact information, best way to reach you. and we'll respond to you within 5 business days. Like I said, only 16 inspectors. We have one intake person that fields all those calls from you. We're in the process of hiring another one. I'm also responsible for our 7-man litter crew that you see on the truck. Maybe we augment VDOT's efforts for helping keeping the roadway clean. They cover that they go out currently in 2 2-man teams and 1 3-man team. The 3-man team is down here on the eastern end of the county. They're busy nonstop. From last year alone to this point, they've collected over 120 tons of trash on the roadways. That means we're the ones you call when you see that road sofa on the end of your cul-de-sac that somebody just left there. Nobody knows how it got there, but you don't want to see it. So we will come and pick that up. They pick up dead deer in the community, the televisions, the tires, all that kind of stuff. If you see that, let us know. We'll get the crew out there. Supervisor Principi's staff, I swear, has us on speed dial, which is great. So we could try to dispatch them when they're out in the field to get that resolved as soon as possible. We also, good news for you all, we're working closely with Supervisor Principi. As the neighborhood coordinator, I also see the landscaping and mowing contracts for the county. So when you see, you'll be seeing improvements here in the Woodbridge area with a distinct look for Woodbridge. We're trying to do an elevated plant design with our county contractor and give some time for it to, blossom up, but I think you'll be really pleased with the end result. Supervisor Principi has a great vision for that, and we've been working very closely with him. Please give him your feedback, because we'll take that and we can work with the landscaper to make other improvements if you're not liking what you see. If it looks too windy or it's too much grass or things like that. But so that's stuff you'll be seeing here quickly. We did some down at Fredlin Middle School. We're getting ready to do the Dale Boulevard interchange. So some grass, some flowers, some plants, some new trees down on Ripon Boulevard. So again, we're here to help you. I can't wait to hear your questions, concerns. I've met many of you through our conferences and our outreach. Some of you may get our newsletter. That's available online. But we are so grateful for your support. We can't do it without you. It's you who help sustain your neighborhoods. And I'm so grateful for everybody who volunteers and isn't afraid to raise their hand and express those concerns to us, because we need to. So thank you.
Okay, what I didn't mention to you earlier is that we have a member of the media, a member of the press with us, as you've all seen. Mr. Billingsley operates What's Up Prince William. It is an online community. If you are interested, want to follow what's going on in Prince William, I would encourage you to contact him and go to his website or get on his email distribution list. It comes out every day. I can set my watch by it between 5 and 6 p.m. every day. And some great information about what's going on in the community. And the reason I bring that up is because he's promised me that he's going to keep the camera focused on me or our panelists. So as we go into the Q&A session, don't be concerned about being on camera or showing up in tomorrow's What's Up. Okay? So he's promised me that he's going to focus on us and not you. Okay? And before we go on, does anybody here live on Maryland Avenue? Nobody? Really? That's amazing. And maybe you know people who live on Maryland Avenue. Several folks mentioned that we get done what we get done with your support. And the residents on Maryland Avenue now for the last year or two have been clamoring for speed bumps because the speed is running on the street. And we went through the process, did the speed study, got the funding, got it approved. But the one last thing missing is a petition from the homeowners on Maryland Avenue. We have some signatures, but not enough to get it approved. So if you know anybody on Maryland Avenue, tell them to call us so we can get their signature on this petition. It's a terrible thing to waste the speed hump, particularly on a residential street when we have excessive speed. So with that,
Yeah, put
we
it on
are,
Kentucky.
Yeah, we'll take it on
Kentucky?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that'll help.
That's a major thoroughfare. for
Two of
people
them.
going
We
to-
got two of them approved, right? But we need signatures from Maryland Avenue residents. All right, so,
Maryland, seems ironic that there's a problem with speeding on Maryland, because you've got such a deep dip in the street, and the street is curving.
we'll take that as the first question. Mr. Weinman has been personally involved in these speed studies. Where on Maryland Avenue in relation to the dip?
So we did the speed study, just trying to think, this is so long ago, I can see exactly where it is, but I can't remember. So if you come down from Blackburn and you come down Maryland, it sort of turns and then there's a straight, and then you have a dip. We did it just before that as you come down the hill there. But yeah, we did one on Kentucky too, I believe. I believe it didn't qualify, so in order to qualify for traffic calming, we need to meet certain criteria. The first one is it needs to be a residential road, which means you need to have driveways backing onto that road, which Kentucky does. It needs to be 2 lanes or less, which Kentucky does. And we need to have a documented speeding problem where we have between, the minimum speed needs to be above 30 miles per hour or 5 miles above the posted speed limit.
Even the buses go more than 30 miles an
I
hour.
understand that. No, we can look at it again. We typically try not to do studies more than once in a calendar year or twice in a 5-year period because of limited resources and the volume of studies that we do. But I've already made a note here to add Kentucky.
But we really want to know an address near you, so we can be real specific.
Yeah, 14, 17.
14, 12, and
There we
10.
go.
14, 11.
That helps. All right.
Grab one of my cards and put in the request through Megan and myself, and we will go ahead and we'll conduct another speed study for you there on Kentucky.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
It's becoming a cut through to the VR.
Yeah.
This is a major problem we're seeing throughout the county, and I'm sure Captain Feddy will agree. One of the problems we're seeing, particularly on Route 1, is a lot of these little cut-throughs that only local residents know about are becoming public knowledge because of ways and that kind of thing. So you'll have an accident on Route 1, and then people used to just wait on Route 1, but now their GPS is saying, go down this little road and around this little road and
Yeah.
this. And that kind of thing. And to be honest with you, I don't really have a solution to that because these are such infrequent events, but they have a huge impact on your neighborhood when they're occurring. It's a problem. If you have any creative ideas on how to address that, we're all ears. So cut through these cut throughs that people didn't know about, except for the locals, are unfortunately becoming public knowledge because of GPS technology.
Okay. In the back of the room, yes, sir.
Mr. Prince, we've got York Drive. We have Woodbridge Middle and Elizabeth Lawn. Mr. Purnell, he's got the problem on Horn Road down here, the cut through, everybody cuts through. Our schools up here, this school is one of them, Elizabeth Lawn and Woodbridge Middle. The school's almost over, so I'll be glad. For the summer, we won't have any kids. They're parking 4 cars abreast on a 2-lane road to pick up the kids from school.
Yeah.
We can't, if I come home early from work, we can't even get home. We're sitting there's 40 cars both directions trying to pick these kids up. This school here is one of the worst. And if we bring more people in this 50-acre development without access to Prince William Parkway, like Mr. Purnell, he's got an awful time down on Horner Road, near Handy Dandy. I wanted to say something quick about the fire department so everybody knows this. Last fall, we had a 45-mile-an-hour windy day, and one of my neighbors, there was a language barrier. I tried to tell them they shouldn't burn leaves, and so they didn't understand me. So I called the fire department, and they came over within 5 minutes, put the fire out. I was worried about our whole neighborhood going up in flames, but so that's what I'm saying. That's what these guys are here for, and I commend you for it. Thank you. But with the speeding, York Drive is really bad for cutting through and traffic bad on 95 Route 1. I don't know if the tables are an answer, but the school buses drive very fast. And I've talked to the schools about their parking, picking the kids up, and I've called the school board. Nothing seems to help. So that's something we should look into.
So I'll take that on, working with Mr. Weinman and the elected school board member for Woodbridge.
And one more thing. In Woodbridge, we're not allowed to have hamburgers and chickens, correct?
Right.
That was the compromise that we reached with the Board of Supervisors. No chickens this side of Hoadley Road.
Well, we
You want to have them on the other side, that's fine.
We've had problems with it, and we've got them again, so, it's like, I don't know,
Okay.
3 acres, I don't know if anybody's opened up the rivers that show.
And I think Kathy would agree with me, if she doesn't. You all don't have to put your name on complaints about neighbors. You can let me know and I'll put my name on. Am I right, Megan? Yes. So if you're concerned about, reporting a neighbor, you don't have to put your name on it. But you gotta go through my office so I can put my name on it. And then, of course, your neighbor calls me, not you.
One more thing, because everybody else can have a question. I've been walking around this neighborhood a lot, Marumsco Hills, I just had knee replacement surgery. There's a lot of inoperable vehicles. We have a lot of cars without tags, inspection stickers. And is that something that the police, I know they're busy, do they jump on the complaints? Or if they see something with dead tags or no plates, is that something they will address without us calling?
IOB.
Yes, it is. Obviously, it's a lower priority to some of the other calls we run. So if you see a particular street, please let me know so I can send somebody out to check on it. Or feel free to call us. But please let me know what streets in particular you're talking about.
And Captain, the process on that kind of situation, the police give a ticket, and then if the vehicle's not moved in 72 hours or something?
10 days.
10 days.
In residential streets, it's 10 days.
10 days.
Now, that's not 10 days that you all see it and then call us. It starts once the officer goes out and issues an abandoned vehicle notice. It has to sit for 10 days. That's the county code how it's written.
Okay. Right. Next question. Yes.
What do we do about a house that's sat empty for over a year on our street?
Hilton Avenue?
Yes.
Yeah, we have what we call Principi's Top 10 Blight List. And every 2 or 3 times a year, I sit with the county attorney's office and police and fire and other neighborhood services. And we go through and say, what can we do about this property? We had 2 on Hilton. We only have 1 now? Is it 1 now? Yeah, so I think we dealt with the other one on Hilton. The owner, I think, this is the one that passed away inside the home?
No.
No, it's a different one, okay. And so, I will tell you, that address is on my list.
Near Greenacre.
And we are continuously looking at what legal authority we have in the county to deal with it. And clearly, the best approach on these things is for that property to sell to the new owner and have somebody come in and reinvest in it and either move in it or sell it.
But it's probably been at least 2 years.
Yeah. It basically because we don't have legal authority to
Somebody comes
deal
in
with
and
it.
cuts the grass occasionally,
Yeah.
but it's probably a pro.
And on the grass, the county will send our contractor in,
Somebody does.
and then we put a lien on the property to pay us back, pay taxpayers back. So,
But it's boarded up, and it's a danger.
I've been there. Yes, sir.
I got 3 or 4 quick concerns.
Okay.
One's a U-turn sign right up the street at Summerland and Parkway. At least once a day when I go through, somebody makes a U-turn. All the time. And the sign either needs to be moved or duplicated and put on the far side of the street so people can observe it. As a matter of fact, I had an officer right behind me the other day, and 2 cars in front of me made a U-turn. People blew their horn, and he kept following me. And I was.
Did you have a brake light that was out or something?
Yeah.
And you'll notice, folks, that we're taking notes. My staff is taking all the questions and answers, and I see
Frank,
panels.
I had 5 or 6 every day U-turns.
In front of your house? Not in front of your house.
Yes, a lot of them in front of
Really?
us, yes. They just want to turn, and when they see, the traffic backs up in front of Kilby. And they don't want to keep on going, so they turn around. I was in my own yard, and they turned around in my yard. And I have turned it over to the police, but they were going to do something, but it hasn't improved.
Okay. I know where she lives. So we can go take a drive. All right, yes, sir. You can go ahead and finish. She's got a couple.
The speed on Warner Road between Maurice Drive and Gordon Boulevard, it's unbelievable. The police did come out here several months ago and put a little speed monitoring sign up for 3 or 4 days. But I think the battery was dead or something. It didn't work right. It took it down. Haven't heard anything since. You might check and see what the I mean, they go by my house. I live in the corner of Armstead Corner since 1960. And my corner's been hit 22 times just on that corner. But it's for a left turn lane now. They talked to Mr. Phillips at the planning commission meeting, and he said there's nothing in the drawing board about that. And they said, if we put it in, how long would it be? And he said 6 to 10 years. And as you all well know, there's no easy way out of here.
Right.
Forest land is, for all intents and purposes, one lane. Box Avenue is 2 skinny lanes, one going each way.
Yeah.
And going down Horner is the same way.
So I'm going to see you June 26th?
Yes, sir. Unless I'm out of town.
Okay.
A couple other things. I sent your office a picture of what I call a begging sign. I feel bad.
Was that you? Yeah, I got it. I read all your emails. I love that sign.
I do too. And it's from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
It's not because I got anything against those people.
But before you go on, I think some folks may not realize what we're talking about. Forever, you could not panhandle on our medians in the middle of the street. The homeless people raising money. And the Virginia State Supreme Court ruled that that was a form of free speech, and your local government could not address that problem. So your neighbor comes up with a sign posted in the median that was down where?
Henrico County on West Broad Street.
And it says?
It says it's unsafe to solicit money or whatever on the median. And if you need help, call Henrico County. They can help.
Services.
Right.
So I have referred that to the county attorney's office, and I'm waiting for a response as to whether or not we can do that in Prince William.
And the last thing I have has to do with obituaries. Since the newspaper in this area died, we don't know who else has died. Maybe the gentleman over there.
Online?
Get online. Get involved with the undertaker.
Yeah, you remember my predecessor, Hilda
Yeah.
Hilda once told me, said, Frank, you need to read the obituaries. I go, really?
There is none.
That's about all for now.
Yeah, well, maybe I can talk with my media friends. And what's up, Prince William, willing to start an obituary?
We can do that.
Yeah, okay, great.
For free.
Yeah, right.
If people send it to us, we will do it for free.
To add something to on the road, I used the whatever you call it, you got people to sign, and there's a $200 and that's up there. I finally got MDOT to put up a little teeny sign that says no trucks, but we get trucks, oversized, trash trucks and everything else comes. And it's still doing it.
Does that road have any weight restrictions?
All right, so through truck restrictions, the way they work, we can request VDOT to look at putting a through truck restriction on certain roads that are residential in nature. I believe Horner Road would be a possible candidate for that, especially given the school and all the other volumes. And what that will do is that will limit any trucks from going through there. However, trucks that are doing regular deliveries on that road,
The sign says they're not supposed to go through.
So I'll have a look at that for you and make sure that the adequate signage is up for
The
that.
sign's so tiny that even the police didn't know it. When I called the police, they didn't even know that trucks were,
I'll
restricted.
check that and then I'll make sure that the
And we'll
adequate
work
signage is
with
put up.
Captain Feather.
Okay, the one
See if we
by
can't get a
Andy-
bigger sign.
The one by Andy Andy
And a little
kind of
enforcement.
blends in with the ice machine sitting around the ice box.
Great suggestion. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on with the
The question is, what's going on with the Potomac Nationals? Our minor league baseball team here, been in Woodbridge 32 years, playing at Pfister. You see one of the charts here is the proposed design of a minor league baseball stadium adjacent to Wegmans, Potomac Town Center, across the street from Centera, Northern Virginia Medical Center. And so, to answer your question directly, I can't say, because there are, as I understand it, private negotiations going on between the owner of the team and other cities or community counties in Virginia and possibly outside of Virginia to relocate the team. Because we went through about a 12 to 18 month process with the Board of County Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors had a series of votes on whether or not to finance a stadium that the county and the taxpayers would own, but that the finance payment, the mortgage, would be paid by the team. And there was a series of votes. We might have had 4 votes. The first 3 were 5-3. Remember the math. 5-3 and get it done. But then the most recent vote, a year or so ago, 4-4. And so we could not move forward, and that particular vote was on the lease contract between the county and the team. And so I've committed to bringing it back with your support after November of 2019, because that's a magic date for us elected officials. November of 2019 is when the Board of County Supervisors sits again for election, re-election, and all 8 of us are elected or unelected at the same time. And so with a different board, we may be able to get to 5 votes or 8 possibly. But in the meantime, I know the team owner is looking at other communities to move into.
But for this season, there's still.
Yeah, and the county has the lease, and Seth is responsible for this. County has a lease through 2020 or 2021?
It's 21, 3 more seasons, man, including this one.
Losing 2 more. And so, of course, they can move out before that if they reach a deal. I thought it was a lost opportunity myself as part of that vision of New Woodbridge, providing. I got to talk about the project just briefly. We were Woodbridge was going to get a $34 million, 6,000 seat minority baseball stadium, $48 million in new road improvements around the state. $48 million. So compare that to the 33.5 on the Epsco Mills, 48 more million, over and above what we're doing on Route 1. 287 permanent jobs, a third of which would be 6-figure. 2/3 would be, a living wage, but a third of which would be high-paying jobs, and we need high-paying jobs in Woodbridge. 71% of all residents leave the county every day to go to work. Those that work, 71% leave the county every day to go to work, and we wonder why we have a traffic problem. So it was a stadium, and a 1,400 space parking garage that was going to be free for use to slugs, carpools, van pools, bus riders during the day, and baseball fans going to evening game or weekend game would pay the fee to park in the parking garage, and that money, we figured out, would be enough to pay for the maintenance of that parking deck. So it was a complete package. And ultimately, what did not get us the 5 votes was the concern. And I share the concern, but I know we can deal with it, is that if the county were to finance the program, the construction of the stadium, we would own it. We could do programming all year round when the team wasn't playing. Is that if the team would default or move to a different city, of course we'd have a contract, but if they did either one of that, then that mortgage would revert to the citizens, to the taxpayers. And so my work was to spread that risk out and transfer that risk to an underwriter, an insurance company, who would be willing to write the check to pay for the stadium if we, somebody, us as a team, were willing to pay annual insurance premiums. So it transferred the risk. And the other was to spread it out. We were going to require the team to put 2 years, or maybe 3 years, of mortgage payments in an escrow account. So if they did move out, we'd be giving ourselves a cushion of up to 3 years to get a new team in. Right? So I'm not giving up on it. I hope you don't. We have issues with it. Traffic, certainly an issue. but all things in VHG. So thank you for that question. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to get back to you mentioned earlier about the speed bumps on Maryland Avenue. And I live on Kentucky, which crosses Maryland. And some of the neighbors that I've been talking to would like to see speed bumps put on Kentucky. Because what people do is, instead of going down Blackburn to Featherstone and taking a right on Featherstone, they take a right on Maryland, take a left on Kentucky, and then fly down Kentucky. And they've been going faster and faster the last couple of years. And the exhausts are getting louder and louder to the point where about a year or two ago, my car hit my van and ended up in my front yard, the car did. And it was going about 60 when it hit it. So I don't know if it's possible, how you go about getting speed bumps put in, because you mentioned...
Well, you've just started the process. We got a couple addresses earlier, but if you share your address, what's your address? Where you think the speed study needs to be? Where on Kentucky? 1511. Okay. So you've started the process. We got to get in the queue because there's only limited resources in the county. We do a speed study, and if it documents a problem, we got to document a problem.
I think Maryland is worse than Kentucky, but Kentucky's probably a second.
Okay. All right. She's next, and then we'll go over to you. Yes, sir? Okay.
First off, I want to say thank you for your police department. I appreciate everything those officers are out there doing. And the fire and rescue also. I think we're really, plus 10 on that part. You mentioned, Kathy, about the trash collection and stuff. I have a tremendous issue with the trash on Featherstone Road in Veterans Park. And, I'm like a self-enforcer, which I'm probably going to get killed, but I'm always bothering people when they throw trash out. I confront them. I pick up, I go down, I walk the trails all the time at Veterans. I have a bag and I pick up trash all along the way. I've tried to talk to the rangers or whatever they're called, I forgot, about how they can address the issues down there. Either a small fee for cars that use it, which I hate to do that because I go there almost every day. So I'd hate to have to pay to go there. But they need like permanent people that are in there picking up the trash. Or everybody that uses the park, hand them a bag and say you have to fill it up or you pay a fee. And I feel also my security now at that park is highly compromised. I've really slowed down on my trips there. I do a lot of nature photography and I sit by myself and I'm nervous as anything now, all the time. A lot of it because of the MS-13 jerks that hang around there and dump things. There was a suspicious activity down there the other day, which I did get the license plate number and I turned it in to one of the guys riding around on the little golf cart thing. But I don't know how to address it. I don't know what the answers are for that. Which I know it seems ridiculous with all the other things that are happening. But
No.
To me, the trash thing is like, there's trash cans everywhere. Keep one in your car. Why can't we have signs saying, because some people are so stupid and have it bilingual, do not, throw trash out or you'll be fined $1 million. And do they actually enforce it? Does anybody actually get a ticket for littering? I've never heard of one person getting a ticket.
It is possible. It's a misdemeanor crime. The police actually have to see the dog.
So we can't maybe instill a citizen's arrest, and give citizens the authority to issue tickets.
Let's parse this out. You got two issues.
Can we talk about litter for just a second? Because we went on a tour, as a matter of fact, last week. Most of us here are environmental services, Parks and Rec.
I went.
Supervisor Principi and Megan, we all went out to try to find the source of the litter. Where's it coming from? How's it getting in the waterways? All within your community. Because our goal is to try to eliminate that if possible. So we do work collaboratively as the county government we work with parks. They're down there with their maintenance guys picking up the trash. There are trash receptacles, people don't
Yeah,
use them.
tons of 'em.
My litter crew is out on the road, and they said the biggest insult for them is people throwing stuff at them from their cars when they're picking up trash.
Yeah.
Here's some more.
The 7-Elevens, the 7 Mart, the industrial park, all the moving van people, I see them every day. And, getting their McDonald's and the whole bag goes out the window. Cardboard containers from the hot dogs from 7-Eleven. And I mean, they'll come out, they're in the parking lot, eating the thing, and boom, right down on the ground.
It is, so I feel your frustration. We're dealing with it every day. We're trying to, we work with, we have our Keep Prince William Beautiful, one of our community partners. Public Works helps to fund them. They also augment the litter efforts here within the county. They have a program called Adopt a Spot. If you're interested, just saying, that you may want to adopt a spot in your neighborhood. They'll get you a sign. We'll give you bags, gloves. We'll help you rally some of your neighbors to own that spot, to make it, look good.
Right.
Will it stop the littering? Unfortunately, no.
No.
But let us know. Our crew is down there a lot. My litter crew augments Seth's maintenance guys at the park. So we know that traffic in and out. Supervisor Principi's office calls us all the time about the furniture, the mattresses, the televisions, the tires. Who dumps 16 tires in the middle of a neighborhood on
Right.
a corner somewhere?
Right.
I don't know, but it happens. And I'm like, people don't want to pay the dumping fees, and that's really sad. They don't want to do that. So.
What Kathy has also said earlier, and I will embellish on it a little bit, is we're changing our thinking about this problem. Because quite frankly, I'm tired of going to 6 or 8 or 10 cleanups every year, getting the vest on,
Right.
bending over and picking the stuff up just like you
Right.
are. That is not a sustainable solution. So we have to change our thinking. And so 8 or 10 of us from the county, different departments and agencies, police department wasn't there with us. But we went from Route 1 at Jefferson Plaza, which is our #1 blighted commercial building in Woodbridge, and I'm working on that. We went from Jefferson Plaza all the way back to the water side of Veterans Park, walking through God knows what. No ticks, thank God. And so we were looking for the sources of the litter. The industrial parks, like you say, the other private companies there, the stormwater management situation that we have with the tropical storm that came through that area several years ago and blocked it all up. So we are looking at several other things to change the paradigm on this problem, because we're not gonna just keep picking it up. We gotta do something better. And Seth was the leader of that team. You wanna add anything about what we found on that half-three-quarter day that we spent out looking?
Sure. We found a series of what we call collection points or entry points where a lot of floatable material is entering the park property. And what we're going to work on doing is addressing or developing a containment system that will be able to confine those floatables to a specific area, so when we do our cleanups, instead of having to scatter about and cover every linear foot of shoreline or stream bank, we can focus our energies in those specific areas where we're collecting the floatables. One of the banes of a park employee's existence is litter in parks. That and soiled bathrooms. It's just part of the job. It never goes away. I will say that our maintenance team does a great job of keeping up with the trash, particularly on the fields.
They do.
And actually, to be honest with you, some of our league participants are the biggest culprits when it comes to litter.
And speeding.
And speeding.
And
yeah.
speeding.
Getting to the practice fields on time and getting home for World Dance on time. And a lot of the kids don't really pay much attention to what they're dropping on the floor or where the trash pickers are. And if we didn't have our maintenance staff going around picking them up after the leagues, it would be a lot worse. So we will continue that effort. We also, in regard to security, just so everyone is aware, we do have a ranger division. It's a modest sized division. We have about 15 rangers. We have a chief ranger, an assistant chief ranger, some full-time rangers, part-time rangers, and we bring in ranger aides throughout the summer. We have ranger aide coverage at Veterans Park. So right now we have the most security presence that we will have at any time during the year, and it might not be as adequate as we'd like it to be, but we try to make sure that our rangers hit the parks. And particularly the high-use parks, Vets Park being one of them. Just to give you a sense of how many patrols, we've had about 27,000 park patrols last year. And those are patrols that our friends over at the police department don't have to do, so they can focus on some of the more serious crime. So having that presence has helped. We lock up the park at night, which helps keeps the vehicles out. And we'll continue offering a security presence. I will say that Supervisor Principi and the Board of Supervisors, recognizing security issues in parks, have authorized the addition of a full-time ranger in fiscal year 19. That's that much coverage we can provide to places like Veterans Park, and we'll continue to try to do our best.
And what about the wildlife there? Are there rules that you can't take the turtles or I see people catching these things all the time.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
well,
I think they're going to eat them.
Yeah, some folks may very well do that. We don't have posted rules regarding wildlife. If there are state laws that prevent that. We have fishing that takes place, and folks are supposed to have fishing licenses. Our ranger team will enforce fishing licenses when they're out and about. They do that when they see someone fishing. In terms of picking up turtles and wildlife, that's probably not legal.
And maybe we should, I don't think the county has the resources, but if we did, to put signs up, bilingual, that say you cannot take the turtles.
Happy to do that. That's something we can do very quickly.
Do the rangers have a citation authority?
No, sir. They have no trespassing authority, which is about as bad as it gets. If you get no trespassed, that means you've done something really bad in your park. If it's something that is of an illegal nature, we will contact the police department, and we have a fantastic relationship with the captain here, and they will send someone out immediately to essentially provide backup or take over from where we left off.
How about game cameras?
Oh, what kind of cameras?
Game cameras.
Game cameras?
You know, snap people that are littering when no one else is around.
It's a very creative idea.
Big government.
And we are exploring that technology, not necessarily for this particular issue, but for other issues, monitoring who comes in and who comes out of our parks. Cameras are very effective. Maybe after the meeting, we can share the story about
After the meeting.
the camera on Featherston Road. But
Okay. We have a question, sir. You had a follow-up to that.
I just wanted to bring up, does it help if we take like the license plate and the car type? Will people get a citation for that for speeding on the roads, or does that not help at all?
Unfortunately, speeding is another offense that the officers have to actually witness.
Okay.
So we would have to provide you the information, refer you to the magistrate's office, obtain a citizen's warrant, and we'd have to go serve. But with that being said, if you have a resident or vehicle that is in the neighborhood consistently, by all means, record the tag number, provide it to us so we can go perhaps have a chat with them and change some behaviors. So that, if you have a regular speeder, yes, by all means, get us that information.
And is there still an ordinance about how many people could be in a dwelling?
Yes.
Like a single-family home? Is it
Kathleen.
allowable now to have multiple families with the cars? Because in our neighborhood, it is very difficult to get even through the road because there's 15 cars per house.
Yes, ma'am. The ordinance still does exist. Yes, there is ordinance for overcrowding. There's a process involved in that. If you reported a concern that you think there's 10 adults living next door and there's 8 vehicles, that report it to us.
Okay.
I will give you our property code card. You could call us in, or you can do it online, and there's an investigative process. So basically what an inspector's gonna need to know is when do you see this happening? And if it's after 7, we will make arrangements to conduct an evening inspection so they can actually see what you're seeing. Because we, again, like the police, have to witness it, and then the educational outreach, we have to talk to the owners of the property about, okay, well, how many people.
And the
are
homeowner has to allow you in the home.
Entry. as
So you have
well.
to ask.
Yes, because we can't.
And then when you're in the home, you know, you ask how many people are living here. And it's like, well, they're all related. And so it does tie our hands legally on what we can and cannot do.
Correct.
But don't they have to be relatives?
Yes,
Yes.
they have to be blood relatives, but you don't ask for documentation.
Correct. So it's not a simple process,
Right.
and it may take some time, but let us know your
It's not
concern.
based on the size of the home anymore.
That
Yes,
still
square feet.
exists, yes,
That's
based
still-
on, but they would have to know, and they'd have to come and see for themselves and do some inquiry, but they have to get access into the home, which a resident can deny us access, you know, so that becomes a.
How many cases in Woodbridge do we have right now of overcrowding, ongoing? Complaints?
Well, right now, ongoing total, there's 201 cases across the
Total.
board with everything, not just overcrowding, I didn't have that breakdown. But so we have 201 active cases, that could be anything from building maintenance to zoning, which would mean an overcrowding issue.
So,
Actually
so
happen right
once
now.
we get ready to enter a home, our teams will actually go in late in the evenings when we think the most number of people are going to be there. And there is an exception for getting in the home from the fire marshal's perspective, right? If we think there are fire code violations?
No, sir. No, sir.
Huh? Is there, no?
Commercial building.
Say again?
Commercial buildings, not residential.
Commercial building is not residential. So even if we thought there was no window bedrooms, extension cords that go from one end of the house to the other, or a lock on the door into the basement, fire marshal can't do anything about it, police can't do anything about it. So yeah, our hands sound like they're pretty much tied.
Well, it's not so much who's in the house, it's the cars that are involved with the house.
Yeah.
That's the issue, there's nowhere to put the cars.
And it's so crowded, it's very difficult to even drive down the street
Right.
sometimes because
Right.
excuse my voice, the cars are parked on either side.
Yeah, there's no way to get through.
Many of the neighborhoods, the roads are not marked, so it looks as if it's a one-way road. And it's a hazard, especially if you live on a road that curves, because it's hard to see the cars coming up or down. And it's kind of, I've had many close, you know, oops, I was going too fast, or they were going too fast.
And so,
That creepy drive.
so help us on the enforcement side of this. Are there particular streets in the Marumsco communities that are perhaps worse than others?
Sure.
What streets are those?
Can I address Marumsco Village?
Sure.
I lived in Marumsco Village since '64. Never have I seen it like it is now. And one of the biggest problems that we're having is Marumsco, Greenwich Hills, across Occoquan Road, has a limit of 2 cars per house, that because of their HOA. Coming across now on Hilton Avenue, Catherine Court, Knoll Street, Carter Lane, all through there, is Greenwich Hills parking. It looks like a construction site down there. Everybody on Hilton Avenue has to have a big construction cone so they can park in front of their own house. This has gotten really out of hand. And what I would like to see happen.
We hit a chord.
What I would like to see
Let's
happen is even if you have parking stickers for residents of that area where they're assured to be able to park in front of their own house.
Amen.
I would totally agree with parking stickers. It's just like DC has stickers for an area. Occoquan has stickers for an area. Marumsco Village cannot park. The streets are very limited. They're parked on both sides of the streets. Knoll Street, Catherine Court, up until you get on the other side of Armstead, has no sidewalks. Then you get the baby brigades in there and they're walking beside the cars. You cannot get through. If an emergency vehicle has to get through here,
Fire
we're
truck.
gonna have a loss of life because they cannot get through.
Okay.
I live
Hold
on
that
a
thought.
cul-de-sac.
I got it.
You can't get through.
Hold that thought. From the fire department's perspective, you're responding to a fire on down one of those streets, and you can't get through. What do you do? In some of those places, they probably only have one way in and out.
No, it's not, but it's two ways, but
It's
you
two.
can't.
But the cars are parked on that street.
They're coming around that corner off of Carter Lane, and I mean, it's gonna have a head on it. It's gonna be a calamity when it happens. You have kids, there's a lot of renters in the properties, and they're renting rooms and everything else. They have multiple cars to a house.
Okay. So let's ask the panelists to respond to some of these issues. From the police and fire perspective, what can you share with us?
Well, we would do our best to get through, and I don't have any record of any instances where we haven't been able to get to any emergency down in that particular area, but we'll definitely we could take a look at it. But our role as a fire department, we are very limited when it comes to residential streets, and we would have to depend on the police department or VDOT as far as parking restrictions and things like that. We do establish fire lanes in commercial properties, shopping centers and large commercial buildings, churches and things like that. But it's very difficult to enforce a fire lane or establish a fire lane in a residential property.
Well, look what resolved if we had stickers to park in there, because even if we got parking on one side of the street, it's not going to eliminate the residents from being able to park. I mean, we have two cars, I mean, you should be able to park in front of your own house.
Okay.
So if you can have even stickers. So if you came over from Greenwich Hills and parked over there and didn't have a sticker, yeah, you would get a towable offense.
Right.
But something's got to be done. Greenwich Hills looks really nice because they can't park commercial vehicles over there. They can't park their taxis over there, and they can't park their business trucks over there. So they park them over on Hilton Avenue, Catherine, and Park Lane.
Do you have a homeowners association?
No, that's the problem.
Okay.
The other one doesn't have one either, and neither, so we could have parking.
Okay, let's hear from some of the panelists, because like you, I'm looking for a solution here. Please?
They're not with me.
Come on now. You're on the hot seat.
Yes, I am. I feel it. First of all, I just confirmed with Richard that we cannot establish parking zones on state-owned roads. The state owns those roads. But we do have the power to enforce licensing, valid licenses, the commercial vehicles. The definition of commercial vehicles in parking in residential neighborhoods changes, the weight limits. So I will definitely, I was trying to keep up with you as you're going through your street list, try to get some people out there to take a look at.
It's Marumsco Village also.
Yeah.
And the streets are very narrow.
It's all.
I was up there Saturday night while I was working, and I agree with you, it is very tight.
You just come to my house, and you come through my stand.
I'm sure I would enjoy coming to your house, but I was up in there and I do.
You have a coffee, you just call up.
I'm gonna take you up on that.
Let's move on to Mr. Wyman from the transportation.
All right, so
Solution.
So I'll start with the problems.
No,
The problem with the state maintained roads is they are public roads, which means we have to keep them open to all members of the public equally. So your idea of, say, permanent parking or something like that is not, we are not allowed to do it on state maintained roads. And that's an issue you have to bring up with the state. Now, when it comes to other violations, if they're blocking travelways, if they're parking against the flow of traffic, there are things that the police can come and do enforcement. If you're worried about emergency access or safety issues, I'm more than happy to come and have a look at it and do a review. And I know the fire rescue guys are more than happy to bring their big rigs through and see if we can fit them or can't fit them. If we can't do that, or if there's a blind curve, a line of sight issues, or something like that, we can then approach VDOT and say, listen, we can't get a fire engine through here, so can we restrict parking on one side of the road or something like that? And we can work around that.
What does it take to get restricted parking on one side?
We need community support, as I've already said. We also need to have a reason to do it, a safety reason,
We do it all the time. Okay.
Again, and there's a process of public notice and hearing. So, but please contact Megan or myself, and we'll come out and we'll have a look at it. And if there's a safety concern, it's pretty quick because we can get VDOT to go ahead and do it. And I know we have in the past got fire engines through roads and stuff and saying, can we fit this through? And we can do that at, I know the fire guys have done it at 10 o'clock on a Friday night because, you know, it's great to get in the middle of the day when no one's there.
In the interest of time, what we're committing to is at least a walkthrough, an assessment of this area to see what legal authorities we have to put together. After 5. Got it. We all work after 5. And I know there were some others. Yes, sir.
I live on Carter Lane, and I agree with this woman. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to drive down Carter Lane and look at the pavement on the front lawn. They paved over the front lawn. The whole front lawn. I mean, it's shocking.
Give me the eyes and ears. You give me an address, we can do something about it.
There's too many houses to list. Just, yes, go down Carter Lane from one end to the other.
I like that.
Or give me your email address, and I'll do it. And I'll
Got it. Are you, sir, are you done? I got it. I think this gentleman was waiting.
I have one for the Park Authority. The intersection of York, I'm sorry, the intersection of York and Pop Mulberry Lane, right next to Elizabeth Vaughn, there's a park. I don't know what it is, Lancasterville Park. The apartments is a different name than the Woodbridge. They just got real strict and they made all the commercial vehicles get out of the park, out of the 9 buildings, apartment buildings. So now they're parking all along Pop Mulberry Lane, and the people who live behind the apartments, they're saying that they can't get 2 cars through there, and that park does not get locked up at night. Not Pop Mulberry, but Lancasterville Park, there's a gate, and it's never locked. And the cars that are having to park and the commercial vehicles, they're all the way down to the bottom of the hill where the Lancasterville Park is. That's it.
Are they parking in the park, sir?
They're parking in the park, and the gate that goes across is never locked.
I'll take a look at that.
Thanks.
And remember, we're documenting all your questions. So if we can read your email address on the sign-in sheet, or you signed in, you'll get an email response. And we'll probably send out a couple of versions of the document because we're not going to be able to answer all these questions tomorrow. So give us some time to work through these issues. Yes, ma'am.
I also live in Marumsco Village, but I live on Fort Lane, and I've had 3 vehicles of mine where I had to put in the shop because they hit it right as soon as we had to come out. So we need speed bumps through there or something.
And what's the address?
13413 Boyston Road.
13413.
When the Marumsco Village was built, we only had 2 cars a season, and they stayed in the driveway. That's what
It's changed. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my neighbor, they running a construction business out of their home, so that when they worker coming to their place, park the car there, at least 1,000 cars in front of my house. So even the trash pickup truck is Irene Court. They get to the forest there. The trash truck has to back out the court. They can go in and then back out. They have people to help them back out, but for emergency vehicle.
This is Irene Court?
Irene Court.
Irene Court. All right, so we got to capture it. Who has not asked a question? Yes, please.
I have a question about businesses run from the home. The reason for my question is we have one home that runs a landscaping business. Now, I don't care about the business in the home, but outside, dump trucks, flatbed trucks, trailers, cones in the street, and workers that come in the morning and park their cars there and go up with them. So what can be done about that?
What's the address?
It's on Maurice Drive. I don't have the number, but I can get it.
Please. All right. Chief, Captain, don't mind to promote you. Not all trucks are created equal in terms of compliance.
Correct.
On what can park and what cannot park.
Residential is anything over 7,500 pounds cannot be parked on the street.
7,500 pounds. And so a painter truck,
Yeah,
a van.
just because it has the markings doesn't qualify it as a commercial vehicle. It has,
Dump
we go by weight limits in the state code and in the county.
I don't know what a truck weighs.
Box trucks, yeah. We actually lowered the threshold. It used to be 10,000.
And so I think what I heard you say earlier is to call the non-emergency line. And while 911 calls, they're prioritized. They may not get to you immediately because they're running some important call. They will eventually get to your call. And so with a license plate and an address, we can actually send police officers out. And do you know what the ticket is? How much it costs?
$35. Well, commercial vehicles, we can tag it and potentially tow it out of there because they're restricted. So, but it's a process.
Right.
Yeah, we can remove them.
You ticket first and then you tow, separate. Yeah.
But if I can get that address, I'll
We
get somebody.
have to hear from you. We are not sending teams of inspectors out to inspect and saying, we need to hear from you, and we'll respond with the limited resources. Other questions? Yes, sir, in the red cap.
Okay, about 35 years ago, when it comes, Bill and I, we lived pretty close to one another. On Carter Lane, VDOT came through, they put new sidewalks in on both sides. When they did that, they narrowed down the street. We used to be able to park on both sides. Now you can only park on one side. They put no parking all the way up, even past the park. I mean, that's Hamilton Park. And I mean, people don't have any place to park. Only one side of the street. If you can park on both sides of the street, you are blessed. But I know Forest Glen, that's a nightmare going up and down. And if you go ahead and build these houses up on Porter Road, how are we going to get out?
I'm not voting.
Should be better than 25 rooms and you have people sleeping on the floors all over. That's the problem. The problem is 15, 25 people in the house with one bathroom. One bathroom. It's disgusting.
You got too many people.
Fix the problem.
I bought a single family home and then a residential and then had a commercial building on the side of a single family home. They made it like that. Apartment building. In and out all night long. I didn't buy my house for that. I bought a single family home.
Not a Mexican
Well, I didn't buy that next to nobody. I got one that's what I did. I was talking in an apartment building next door. I got a single apartment building. I'm going to a single family home. What I bought. That's what
We can discuss and debate after 9 o'clock, in the interest of everybody's time. Do you have the address of the problem?
Village Line Road is really bad. Landscape business, daycare center.
Where on Illinois?
Hotel building. We're at the very end of Village Line.
You got that? Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am, and I'll get to Please, folks. I want to hear.
Long-term resident here since second grade on Woodbridge High School, graduated Woodbridge, et cetera. But Kathy, I think this is mostly for you, it's health, welfare, and safety, like you said, is your area, but some overrides to others. Mosquitoes are an issue. We've got 24/7 now. The species are out all day, all night, biting. We're on the CDC radar, Virginia is, for incidents of viruses being spread now by these mosquitoes. So number one of my 3 issues is what's being done about mosquito control. Number 2, we have an alarm system in our house. It's for fire. It's for burglary. We have to pay a fee every year because we have an alarm system. I understand when we have a false alarm, we should pay a fee. I understand that. But when we're assisting fire and rescue by early warning, etc., understand that. The third thing, for 20 years, between us and my brother-in-law, who lives next door, we've been going the route of the supervisor's office, your predecessors also, excuse me, but yes. And as recently as November and October for your office, trying to get a light where it's a street light between a gap that exists at the end of Marumsco Drive where it intersects with Davis Street. And it's a 90-degree angle right there. And you've got porch piracy going on, you have, pedestrian issues in terms of risk. But now, we've never been referred to your Department of Public Works, so maybe there's hope. If I go through you, for 20 years, we need this light. No one's come out to see how dark it is at night. We all want a place.
Thank you.
So three things.
Mosquitoes, I will find out for our environmental services folks. I know we were out doing a field trip last week. They no longer spray. You might have gotten used to that from years ago because people frowned upon those planes going through and what is that, it can't be good for you. So they do like blocks in certain things, and they'll come out and do an inspection of your property. They'll look at the neighbors, like if there's standing water, people like bird baths, they like that, but they don't want the mosquitoes, so you have to get rid of the water. They'll check your gutters, they'll do that. But I'll give you my email, and I'll get the actual schedule of when they are treating and what neighborhoods they're treating, because we use that feedback to, because they're doing investigative stuff where they go out and they monitor activity of larvae and all that kind of stuff. And with all the rain, it expands, and so people have to be proactive and get that water away from their homes. The light actually is our transportation folks. It's a process. We could identify that, and I'll refer them based on...
We have an answer.
Oh, good.
Your street light has been funded.
You want to finish up with
You
the...
go.
It's been funded. Dominion's responsible for the construction and installation, and there is a queue. So what do we think? 6 months to get it constructed, Megan? 6 months? What's the lag time? Yeah.
It was just like it is FY18, so it's behind a few, but yeah, 6 months.
6 months, just to set a queue. Can we get all three?
No.
Can we get all
The
three?
other question, I don't have an answer for about why you have to pay the fee with your...
Oh, the alarm? I pay that fee.
That's
We all pay that
The
fee.
county doesn't do anything.
Should the ones who don't have an alarm pay a fee?
Let's ask Kevin.
Yeah, ask the county.
I've got to plead ignorance on this one. Yes,
You don't have an alarm?
I do, and I pay a monitoring fee to my monitoring service.
No, to the county. It's either $10 or $20.
I guess.
If you register your alarm. I think it has to do with those false alarms and police resources. No, going countywide, not just to you, but they have to have so many officers just respond, even if there's no, real emergency.
Right, and we're not disagreeing. We understand using the resource, basically. But that baseline fee every year is high.
Yeah, and that decision was made by the Board of Supervisors several years ago, and it had everything to do with the alarm that goes on, and there's nothing going on. There's no...
Well, there's nothing going on with the police did. They didn't use an alarm was set off by somebody trying to get in and
Oh, sure.
didn't do it.
Oh, sure. And they're going to respond to everyone.
We don't know. They didn't leave a sign saying, sorry, we couldn't break in. So they come out and when they try to get in and set the alarm off, they say, oh, there's nothing going on, there's no window broken. So, Mark, false alarm.
Who initiated the potential year fee?
It's an annual fee.
Right, but who initiated that? So they can reverse it because we feel like that's not necessary.
Yeah, we can talk offline.
Yeah, well-
But it was a legislative policy choice by the board. I'm going to need to dig in and get the rationale. Okay. Is this the last question in the back? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question that's for the police officer. I know you always come to help whenever, anybody calls, but one thing that they used to always do in the county that's a really good deterrent is they always had the police barricades where they always checked us for a driver's license. Do you have a registration? Are you legal? And we had to go through this every year. Every April 16th, I know they were all over the county checking to make sure you paid your taxes. And I have not run across one in 20 years. There's no enforcement. I think if people see that happening, they're not going to be out there driving without a license. When there was a police officer in front, somebody's flashing the lights, and there was an officer ahead with the radar, 4 of the 5 cars in front of me turned around and went back. So 80% of the people were apparently driving in some illegal form of way, and they didn't even want to cross the path of a police officer with a radar. So just having those stops, they used to do it on Longview, Prince William, Featherstone, to get those people leaving the neighborhoods in the mornings that are out there driving without a license, because I have 5 cars totaled on Green Acre Drive. I had a lot more hit, and all of them, nobody had a driver's license. Nobody had insurance. The one girl who hit me got another ticket. She's had 5 tickets for driving without a license, and is still driving down the road today, because she didn't even have to do jail time or anything.
So I think I heard the question, Captain.
We do still periodically do stationary road checks, is what you're talking about. The frequency depends on available resources. The April 15th date, from my many, many years of being here, had to do with the county taxes when the county issued the decals. We were specifically... I agree with you. It just comes down to balancing the needs, the emergency calls.
So no.
I will take a note, and I will see what I can do to help get those started again, but I'm not going to make any promises.
Okay.
But I will.
Last question up here. You've been waiting patiently.
In the beginning, you mentioned, do we need more McDonald's, KFCs? No. However, a Sonic would be very nice.
So many of you know that I was a big champion of bringing Trader Joe's into Woodbridge a couple years ago. And I actually flew to Trader Joe's corporate headquarters in Southern California 2 years in a row at my expense to try to convince them that one of their they were opening 2 stores a month at that point around the country. And we brought with me 3-ring binders each time with proprietary leases contained in the binders of landowners, property owners that wanted to lease to Trader Joe's on the Route 1 corridor. And in both instances, with a petition from citizens like you and a lot of media coverage, they would not say yes or no. We are on the list, but when it happens is anybody's guess. I try to convince them that we have a clientele that will support Trader Joe's.
In support of the U-turn, why can't we have a camera there and check it from the camera?
There are cameras in the county? No.
I'm not an enforcement guy, but pretty much my understanding is that the state's regulations or laws don't allow ticketing with cameras in general. That's my understanding.
I would like to apologize to the people, and I sympathize with them off of Hilton and on the side streets over there. Yeah, we have a big problem in Greenwich Hill, and we tried. Real estate dealers will not tell the people they only can have 2 cars in there. We don't have parking spaces any more than that. We're a 50-year-old community, and back 50 years ago, the people had 1 car. And that's what is along now. And we have to put up with it also, illegal parking within our community. And we discourage people from parking and blocking other people's driveways and all. But I have...
Well, you don't need to apologize. because I know you've got the same sort of problem that they were referring to. Okay, we are out of time, but I just wanted to ask you for 60 more seconds. In September, the Woodbridge Civic Association is celebrating its 10th anniversary. And I don't know how many here in this room are members of the Woodbridge Civic Association. I know there are at least 2. And they are joining us tonight to encourage you to consider signing up. There's no charge. They meet once a month, 9 or 10 months out of the year. And they've got a great program every year. And it gives you a stronger voice. And I'll give you an example. The Civic Association, I think, is considering a decision to support or oppose Raise Regard. And so participating through the Civic Association is another voice on a project like Raise Regard. If you would kindly give a very warm thank you to all of our panelists.